Yes, good afternoon, and thank you that I can speak here. The title of this conference is What's Next? PSD2 is next, I would say. And I think you will not be surprised that I will talk about PSD2. And one of the most discussed topics within the PSD2, I think we already have heard it, are the discussion about TPPs, or as they also called payment initiation services. There's also account initiation services, but I think the main discussion is about the payment initiation services. I will use a broader term of TPP. As mentioned, I'm representing the biggest international TPP in Europe. The Ford will make in 2015 more than 50 million transactions with a volume of nearly 5 billion euros. And we are still growing with more than 30% compared to the year before. And so it becomes, I think, more and more important in the different European markets. TPP allow, in the end, the consumer to pay online with their online banking account. So we are focused on the e-commerce, and so I will also a little bit focus on the e-commerce, on the internet business. If you're looking on the modern internet, you can divide it into 4 major market segments. You have the marketplaces. They are dominated by Amazon and eBay. You have the search engines. This is nearly purely dominated by Google. You have the social networks dominated by Facebook. And then, as the first pillar, you have the payments. There, traditionally, MasterCard, Visa card were quite strong. Now, PayPal is a very important and big player in the e-commerce business. But I would say, if we are looking at all these 4 pillars, and I think these are the important ones if you want to make business in the e-commerce, you see that at least the first 3 are already dominated by US players, while the first one, the payments area, at least there we see that there are still some European players. And I think in this aspect, the regulation we're now setting up becomes quite crucial to bring competition to the market and to make sure that we, at least in one area, have some European players. Freedom of choice for merchants, as well as cost-effective and secure alternative payment methods, will be key to success for further growth of an independent European payment landscape. And with TPPs, we will have the chance that European players getting a role in the e-commerce. Technologically, development is so fast that regulation often cannot keep up with it. This is good for innovation, but means, on the other hand, that any regulation must be technically neutral. Payments is one of the segments where the existing regulation, PSD1, was quickly outgrown by market developments. This is why the Commission has proposed PSD2, aiming to bring all market players and business models under one fair regulatory umbrella. PSD2 should protect consumers and open up the market for new innovation, ideally from Europeans' own startups and not only from US players. PSD1 was successful because it opened up the market for bank-independent PSPs. The same might happen with PSD2. Especially new innovations such as TPPs needed to be regulated and protected from obstructions and blockades from some banks in Europe who didn't want TPPs to be successful on the market. One of those services is support banking, the one I'm working for just from the very beginning. And it was really a hard time with more than 9 years of continuous obstruction. I can really tell this. Some banks still try to prohibit its consumers to use their online banking via a TPP. Despite rulings from DG Competition and the German Federal Cartel Office that banks are not allowed to prohibit the consumer to use of a TPP. Security was used as a pretext in this discussion. By this, I'm not saying that security is not important, but it can be also used as a, I would say, dangerous weapon in a political discussion. Despite the fact that paying with a TPP is in the moment the most secure way to pay in the internet. We did more than 100 million transactions with a volume of more than 10 billion euros, which no single fraud case to the detriment of a user of the fraud. If you would have processed all this transaction via credit cards, this would have cost several million euros on damages. And I think we should keep this in mind if we are talking about security. TPPs are since 2002 on the market without any problems. Even banks have offered, and that's quite interesting, quite similar multi-banking solutions like account aggregation services for several years. This shows that security is, in this context, often used as a pretext to protect the revenues of the incumbent players. This is why the initial Commission proposal of the PSD2 made the following points very clear. First, consumers are allowed to use their online banking account via a TPP to initiate payments. Second, banks shall not be allowed to block their customers to use TPP. Third, TPP shall not be obliged to enter into contractual relationships with banks. Fourth, banks and TPP shall be communicating securely with each other so as to ensure the confidentiality of the user's data. The European Parliament strongly supported those and even strengthens a number of very important safeguards for consumers. First, TPP shall never store the user login credentials. Second, TPPs shall never use such credentials for any activity other than those explicitly requested by the user. TPPs shall always identify themselves vis-à-vis the account servicing bank. We at the Ford believe that the rules proposed by the Commission and redefined by the European Parliament will guarantee that today's and tomorrow's payment services can function securely and will offer a benefit to consumers and Europe's e-commerce. Banks should not be the gatekeepers that limit consumers' choice for online payments. This is what the PSD2 should guarantee. Unfortunately, the Council has taken a different view, at least in some aspects. In their position, member states propose a system in which the banks develop some kind of interface which TPP can connect with. Banks would decide what TPP could do and not do. Obvious problem is banks would remain gatekeepers and exclude competition from the payment market as before. This will even kill any further innovation. Instead, the European Parliament adopts a technologically more neutral position. The worst thing about the interface solution is that this will even not work for the banks. It will be not efficient if every single bank has to take care of its own online payment interface. And as mentioned before, I think in the e-commerce, PayPal is still by far the most important online payment service. Banks have not and will not win against PayPal unless they partner with others online innovators such as TPP to succeed in the digital age. And I therefore call not only the EU to adopt a PSD2 that puts consumers in control instead of banks, I also call on the banking industry in Europe to open up and partner with European innovators for making the internet a better place. Thank you.